Welcome back, you guys. This is the Art School Graduate. I am your host, Justin Robinson. Thank you guys for sitting here and listening to another conversation. And today I have a Milwaukee native, a filmmaker, a creative director behind Dopamine Productions, which was an earlier project he started, and now the focus on his new project, which is Cynosure. My guest today is Xavier Ruffin. X, how are you doing today, man?
What's up? What's up? I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, man. So let's just take it to the beginning. What role did creativity play for you growing up in Milwaukee and Madison?
Okay. So creativity's always been like a part of my life. So my mother used to draw, my dad used to draw. So it was very natural. I feel like all kids are very creative, or most kids are very creative. And what typically happens with people is they let go of their creativity, or it's taken from them in one way or another by like life and responsibility. Yeah. But in the early on, like we had it rough, right? So I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm from the zip code 53206. There's a whole documentary about 53206 because it's the most heavily incarcerated zip code in America, where
Wow.
2 out of 3 Black men go to jail at one point or another in their life. I was an 80s baby, so crack era type stuff. That definitely hit the home, and we ended up being like homeless when I was in like second grade, something like that. And I stayed in the shelter with my dad. And something I used to do all the time while I was there is just draw. It was just like that was something I could always entertain myself with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, didn't have video games like that. So it was just like sitting down drawing, trying to make up characters and stuff like that. So in the early on, creativity was an escape for me in my childhood. Eventually, we kind of got some stuff together. My dad was able to get into school in Madison. That's when we moved to Madison. I was like around then. I kept drawing there. That's when I started drawing like Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that. So that's when I started to realize that I was drawing more than other people were. And people started to say like, hey, can you make this for me? Can you make that for me? And I think that's like when it started to become part of my identity that I was. But as a child, it was a part of me, but it wasn't who I was yet. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like I very
Yeah.
well wanted to be an engineer and like build bridges. So that was
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when did the shift hit for you to be like, okay, I can take this serious? Because that's not a big jump of creativity to want to be an engineer and build bridges from like drawing, characters. But it's like kind of they're not in the same wheelhouse of like I would say design almost.
Right, yeah. And then so yeah, when I was young, like I was always like I was good at math, and I felt like architecture or civil engineering kind of makes sense. And this is me in like fourth grade, fifth grade, or whatever.
Mhm.
I moved back to Milwaukee to live with my sister when I was in seventh grade. And when I was in art class in seventh grade in Milwaukee, there was one teacher who the assignment of the day was to draw a still life of a plastic bottle, right? Nothing like crazy or anything like that. And we only had art class like once every other week. I went to this alternative school. Shout out to Global Learning Center. When my folks put me in that school, they didn't realize what alternative school meant. But basically, alternative school was you could not get into regular school for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I think it was just like I think I went in the middle of the year, right? So, but the art teacher asked us to do a still life of a bottle, right? And so all the kids, they draw the bottle, they draw what they think a bottle looks like, right? But when I'm drawing the bottle, I start drawing the girl on the other side of the bottle who's also drawing,
Mm.
right? And then that teacher said, "Oh, okay, something's different here. Like this is more than the typical, right?"
Mm.
And
Mhm.
skis, what she did was she went out of her way. She had a couple connections down at MIAD, the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. And she was like, hey, I think you should look into taking some classes down here. You know what I'm saying? They got a pre-college program for middle schoolers. And since you qualify for free lunch, you can take it for free, right? they'll give you a stipend for your art supplies and all that kind of stuff. And that's when art became something like more serious for me because it was
Mhm.
like, oh, like up until then, it was just like I could draw well. And that
Yeah.
it just kind of ended there, right? You get a good grade in art, it's whatever. But when she
Yeah.
got for me and I got to see like an art school, then I was just like, oh wait,
Mm.
no, like people really do this. And then it was ninth grade when I took my first pre-college design class, right? And that's when it was
Yeah.
like, oh no, this is a career. Like people do this because it broke everything open to me to realize that everything we interact with has been designed. Every product that we type
Mhm.
or magazine we look at or whatever, there's a team of creative people behind it, and
Mhm.
it's their job to produce it. And that's when I was like, yeah, this is what I'll do because I was into computers already and stuff like that. And then so it's like you can marry my creativity with computers and like sustainable work, right? As opposed to the
Mhm.
idea of being kind of like this starving artist, hoping someone either gets your vision or thinks your painting looks good with their couch, and wants to,
Mhm.
pay you for it. So that was when it clicked for me. And it took like
Mm.
I took that class in the summer of ninth grade, I think. And then I started freelancing by that fall. Like I was working
Wow.
a guy named Logic out of Seattle that I met off of MySpace, right? Working on like his websites and stuff like that. He used to pay me in Smack DVDs and the Skeen shirts. That's how that's how
Oh my god, bro, you just dated us. You just dated us. Said you just dated us. I was like, when you said that, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know
you know what
exactly what
era
it
that
is.
was with. Hey, but Smack's still out.
Absolutely. It is. But now it's on like Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, the evolution, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm curious, like how did that feel to be such a young person in a college space? Did that shift your creativity? Because I forgot who said it. I want to say it was, I think I was listening, Two Chains had mentioned it or someone else had mentioned it, where they said that like if you put a kid into a place where they have to level up, they actually like get to there where they have to play. Like if you put a younger kid into like a different age group, they're playing with like older people and they start to like understand that they have to level up. So was that something that you experienced? Was that like, oh, I'm in this space with like adults and I'm 13, 14 years old. Did that ever like hit you where you're like, okay, I have to get to this level? Or was it more of, okay, I'm on this journey and I'm going to take my time to understand what I need to do?
So what I think is beautiful about the experience, right, is a lot of people don't realize this or talk about this part of it is you suck when you start. You're not good.
Yep.
And so being like, well, I'm walking through the halls, I'm seeing everybody else's work, but I'm 5 years younger than everybody else's stuff that's on the walls.
Hmm.
So there's a certain like acceptance of the distance between what I'm able to do and what they're able to do.
Hmm.
Where it's like, oh, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be at later.
Hmm.
We
Got
are
it.
there compared to like walking in and feeling like you're competing with, because not to get it twisted, my classes were with other people my age, but we're
Oh, okay.
strategic environment, right? So
Mhm.
you have college professors that are teaching you, and you're still walking up and down these halls and seeing everybody else's work that kind of is in the degree program. And so
Got it.
it is kind of like what you were talking about because I'm comparing myself to them, not the other people in my class. I was already better. I was very used to, I want to use the better. I was already used to being more technically skilled than other people in the art
Yeah.
class that I was in, right? So
Yeah.
now when I got into the pre-college program, it was like, all right, well, all these kids are also the best art student in their class, right? So it's very similar to
Got it.
this, right? When you get the high school All-American game or whatever, it's just like, yeah. these teams are made up of the best players in their states, right? So there used to be so much fat. You used to burn everybody, and now you're really getting by, right? But like I said, I would walk out into the hall and I would compare myself to the other collegiate students, or I would compare myself to the alumni who had work hanging in the building because they've been working at Complex Magazine or something like that. So shout out to Justin Thomas K. But so what that did do is that it did expedite that growth process, if that's right, because you have something tangible, you have a goal that you're looking to complete, and you can see how other people are kind of like putting the work in. I had friends, I have friends from school who didn't realize like I was in middle school because I would just hang out, right? So the pre-adult classes were like Saturdays, but I'd be there all week. I'd go after school, I'd go down there and I'd be working, I'd be in the lab or whatever. Cause like at the time I didn't have those programs at home, and I'd be there all week. So they was just like, I thought you, when I was a freshman and I was really there, they were like, oh, I thought you were about to graduate. Like we getting ready to get up out of here. Like I thought you were like a junior or something like that. I'm like, yeah, this is my first year. Like, so it was also fun and advantageous to have like some of those friends too, because while I'm going through school, I'm seeing what their first and second year out of school looks like. Right. And I'm walking into jobs right behind them because they just got promoted or shifted. Because now when I'm graduating, they've been at their old job for like 2 years, 3 years into whatever, and they're shifting and going somewhere else. And they're like, yeah, check out my homie's nice. Right.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, all right, yeah, knock. Let me feel that shoes. Let me feel that spot. Let me take that seat kind of thing. So
Got it. Wow, man. That's incredible. So when you graduated high school, you also graduated with a degree or you were close to being finished?
okay, so when I graduated high school, I already had like 18 college credits. So I was about to graduate. I also was in the baccalaureate program in high school. So that has some weight to it too. But basically when I went to college, I didn't have to take any elective courses
Got it.
throughout my tenure.
So you almost came in as like a like a transfer student from a JC, like the junior credits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm curious, what did that feel like to be from where you're from, to see that like you're kind of like the only one in this space where it's like I'm graduating, I'm in the baccalaureate, I have 18 units, but then it's like you look at where you come from and you're one of the few people that are in this space. What did that do to you mentally?
Being like transparent, it gave me a great sense of burden because coming up, there's other people who can like identify with this experience. It's slightly different. It's not necessarily survivor's guilt, right? But there's something else when it's like you feel like people believe in you. So they do a little bit extra to try to help push you through. And it creates, or it can create, both a sense of purpose, but a sense of duty too. Like, oh no, I gotta make it. Like, I gotta, like, I don't have, I can't not, like, other people don't have the opportunity. Other people weren't gifted the opportunity that I was gifted. I'm not the only person that could draw. I just so happened to be at this point, at this place, in this space, at this time with this person who happened to know that person. Right. And so it's just like, now you've been given the keys, you got to drive this car. Right. And don't wreck it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of like the feeling that I had. So the time that I had spent in Madison, because Milwaukee is predominantly is a minority majority city, right? So kind of like you think about like DC or something, not quite Atlanta.
Yeah.
But the majority of the people in the city of Milwaukee are Black and brown. So when I went to Madison, Madison is a lot more diverse because of the college there.
Yeah.
I got that experience of being in like PWI type settings. So there wasn't like a culture shock of like being one of the only black kids. When I was in school there, I was like one of, you could count on two hands how many black Maryland people were in school there. Well, there's been a dramatic shift. There's a lot more diversity there these days, which I'm very happy of. And I think a lot of that was attributed or could be attributed to that pre-college program in the whole like free lunch scholarship opportunity because it opens the doors for people to like grow the skills, because a big hurdle for a lot of people is just portfolio development, right? And some of that is just like, well, when do you learn and when do you find out that this is an option for you? And by option, I mean, are you, right? I learned young. I was in 7th, 8th grade when I learned this is an option for me. My family didn't have the means to pay for art school. I put myself on a track to get a scholarship. I was like, this is what we're doing. I'm going to take as many of these classes as I can now. I'm going to get as many of these free credits as I can now. I'm going to build this portfolio now. I'm going to build this relationship with this admissions counselor now. Well, I'm going to get my portfolio reviewed so many times this time. So when it came time to apply, it was like, we already know you're getting in. There's not a question. We're trying to figure out how much money do you want in order to come here, right? And but that's just because I had that opportunity, right? So
Wow. Yeah, because it's curious to see when you're kind of a lone soldier in these spaces, like how do you feel and how do you keep going forward? Because sometimes I feel like that guilt kind of sets in for many designers and many people of color, like when they're in this space, like, damn, how did I do this? Like, why am I here? Like, why did this happen to me? But then it's kind of like that mindset changes, like exactly what you said, where it's like, okay, I'm going to succeed. I'm not going to like fail or let down I guess the tribe, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Wow. Man, that's crazy. I couldn't imagine being graduating high school and 18 units already into college. I would have loved that. That would have made college go by so much faster, bro. So let's talk about early in your career. You started teaching at 25 and designing at Kohl's. And like, what did corporate life teach you?
that I didn't want a corporate job, but it was cool. Like what Kohl's was able to do. So Kohl's has a great partnership with MyEd, right? So they come down every summer and they look for a batch of rising seniors, right? So juniors going into senior year, and they have their internship program. They don't do it just at MyEd, they do it across the country. And it's like one of their ways that they can essentially do an extended interview with some of the best talent out to see like who they would want to hire coming out of school. So they came down, I applied early. I was a sophomore going to be a junior. And so they typically don't hire those, but they did for me. So I had two consecutive summer internships with them because they couldn't give me a job offer going into my junior year, right?
Right.
But they did come back and give me a job offer going into my senior year. And what that did for me was it took an immense amount of pressure off of my senior year and my senior thesis because I wasn't trying to get a job from it, right? So everybody else is doing exactly what they think someone wants to see for them to get work, but I was allowed to just kind of like explore without like fear of consequence. And I definitely did way more than I could chew, right? It was a great learning process because that's when I had already done some animation and some motion and stuff. But that's when I really got into like 3D animation, title sequences, the stuff that I ended up doing that I loved the most, right? And I was able to get my senior thesis across the finish line. It was a dumbed down version of what I originally intended. I don't know what was wrong with me. I thought I was going to make 4-minute music video and a documentary about the 4-minute music video with 3 characters. And like, I was on something else. You can do that now. You could not do that then.
You had to draw everything out, every scene out,
Yeah.
color every scene, Chain. Oh my God. Trust me.
Write
I know. I
everything. I
know.
was doing character.
Yes.
But so that was something that Kohl's had blessed me with young stability, right? So it's just like that. The corporate has a certain level of stability and continuity and dependability. That doesn't mean that like these corporations don't go through whatever and lay off like half of their staff. They do best for that. But it gave me a sense of security in the early on, but it wasn't really like creatively fulfilling. So I was on a design innovations team at Kohl's. And so what we would do is we would make microsites for like brand launches. So we were doing, so I'm 22 and I'm working on websites for Chaps, which is like Ralph Lauren's brand that he had with, it's the Toyota to the Lexus. If Ralph Lauren is Lexus,
Gotcha.
Chaps is Toyota, right? Or with Jennifer Lopez and Mark Anthony when they were like launching different lines and stuff. So we'd make like unique experiences for them. But it always was, all right, we challenge you to go as far out as you can, right? If we go out there, we have fun, we make something super creative, and then it's just like, all right, now dumb it down 10 times. And that's what we'll make. And so it's like, all right, cool. It's a job. I'm doing that. But all the while I'm doing that, like I'm playing hooky and hopping in a ride with my rapper friends and we're driving down to Champaign and we're opening up for Kid Cudi and I'm just running around with a camera, like documenting concerts and stuff. Yeah. This is when I had a blog. This is the blog era, right? So I had a blog and I would review concerts and we'd make portraits of artists who were coming to town and give them to them as a gift, as a way to like get art out there and stuff like that. And I'm doing all this other stuff in the background because I'm trying to feed that creative beast, right? And of course, there comes like a crossroads. It was an interesting conversation that I had with like not my manager, but like my manager's manager. It was just like, we want to see all that cool stuff that you do after work, at work. And I was like, no, you don't. Like, I give it to you, and you say, all right, cool, now dumb it down. Oh yeah. And then that conversation turned into, okay, well, you kind of got to pick what you want to do because we have you on a management track. We see you becoming this person, that person, and this person.
Oh, wow.
We got to have you kind of focused.
100% in.
And at that time, I was like, nah, I think I'm good. Like, I think I can go do something different. Like, so that's what corporate life was for me. And for folks in the field, I would definitely recommend trying to spend a little bit of time on every side, on the client side, on the 60 side, to kind of figure out what it is that you like or love. When you're on that corporate side, you basically have one client. It's the corporation, but you have a lot of stability, a lot of continuity. You clock in at this time, clock out at that time, because you guys are working on projects that aren't coming out for 9 months or a year. On the agency side, it's a little sexier. You got a bunch of different things, a bunch of different clients that you're working on.
Yeah.
But you might be pulling longer hours because you have shorter turnaround times and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what did you get from that? Was there like a structure that you took from the corporate world that you're implementing now into your life as a creative director? Or was it just like, whew, I do not want to sit here and crank out projects like I did? Or was it kind of like you kind of like cherry picked everything you wanted to take from that space?
Yeah. So when it came to Kohl's, the biggest thing that I picked up on was management and management style. So I had a manager, David Mayer, who has probably been one of the best bosses I've ever had, right? And I really appreciated his leadership style. And I've definitely taken that and used it in my own like management of folks. And it's in trying to be like relatable first. Remember that we're all people first before we are human capital, right? Making sure that you're available to teach, right? and also being the type of general that's on the front lines, right? I'm never going to ask you to do something I would not do or have not done or am not currently doing. So we had a project and we were talking about coding a website or coding something to animate. I look at his desk, he's doing it. He's doing it right now. And if you have a question, like, oh yeah, no, we can do blah, 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 blah. He's not just sitting somewhere, and not a knock on anybody who does that, but like, proverbial feet on the desk, reading magazines, saying I'm trying to get inspired so I can help lead the team. Right. It's like, yeah, man, if you're staying late, we're staying late. Right. And having that type of attitude towards it, I don't want to let this person down. Right. As opposed to I'm scared of losing my job or animosity toward my leader because I feel like they're not pulling their weight. Right. And there's times where like, I'm sure like I've been late on stuff and I'm not set the best example for everybody. But at the same time, what does accountability look like in that situation? Right.
Right.
I'm sorry. This happened. I hear you. This has made this difficult. All right, what's the solution? How we move forward from there? So that was like the biggest thing I picked up from my time at Kohl's, like specifically. I think, been in a couple of different places. Shout out to Jack White Design, there were like smaller agencies that are set up very similar to how Cynosure is set up. And just peep game on like the dynamic of building a team, right? And what type of players that you need, right? You don't, if you make it a sports analogy, you don't need 5 bigs on the floor, right? If everybody does the same thing, then you're missing so much, right? Now it's one thing if you got 5 7-footers who can take it to the hole or shoot the half court 3, the logo 3, and they got all right, cool. Then like you have a freak team like that. But understanding like having a strong point person or having people who can execute this style of creative very well and someone else who can speak this voice very well, someone who is a little bit curt but not rude so that they can speak the truth in the situation that's just like, all right, without the fluff, we need to get this done right now. We need to get that done right now, in order to keep things, but also have like open communication and stuff like that. And so those are things that I picked up from other places that I worked at.
Okay. So I want to touch on one of your early projects, Dopamine. How did that start?
Okay. So, Dopamine Productions Holdings LLC. Dopamine Productions was, so remember when I was talking about like I used to just play hooky from work sometimes and like follow right around and like shoot content and stuff like that. So that turned into one of my mentors, Ruben Whitmore, is a video director, right? And I had forever been a DMX fan, right? And then I come to find out that my favorite song, which is Slippin', was directed by a Milwaukee native named Ruben, and he's right up the street. I had to meet him. I had to hang out with him. I had to pick his brain, and he just took me under his wing. He was an amazing mentor, and he taught me so much game. And when it came to just like making music videos, he was like, "Yeah, I'll help you. Let's get it together." And then another one of my friends, who was like the manager for another friend of mine who was rapping. So Gerald Walker is the rapper. Muhammad Shah was the manager. But I linked up with him because he was he was interested in producing, right? That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to like make. So we got together with a couple more friends and we started shooting music videos together. So like we went down to Nashville and shot a country rock video with Fools for Rowing. And we shot like a couple more videos and did a couple more projects. But it just came to fruition with a couple of people who were like, yeah, I kind of want to get into production. I kind of want to, and we were just kind of filling it out. Like, and Ruben was the vet who kind of helped keep us all in line. And it was a little bit more like I'm mentoring these young folks, and I'm helping them out. Like he really didn't take much like payment from those things, but he just enjoyed it. Like it was, he had already done, six-figure music videos for like a decade or whatever. So he was really just like helping us out and having fun. That I was the only one that was working full time with that. So eventually that just kind of turned into me like freelancing, and we kind of just dissolved that collective, like with no bad blood or anything like that. It was just like I was the only one at a certain point that was still like doing the work, because a lot of the work too was like editing stuff. So if it was just like we got a video, we'll get a video from like Mad Decent or something like that, and it'll already be shot, but they'll ask for like some pizzazz on it because they weren't necessarily super happy with how it got shot, right? And that's how I got into the making stuff for Riff Raff, making stuff for Childish Gambino, making stuff for Mac Miller. That's how that came about.
Now, was it a hustle that became a business, or was it the other way around when you started Dopamine
Yeah,
Productions?
it was more so a hustle that became a business, right? Because I had already been doing the freelance stuff and like hustling. And it's just like when certain opportunities started to come, then it was like, all right, cool. Let's formalize this a little bit, and let's get some clear roles over like who's doing what, where, and that's how like it became the business, right? I think a Fools for Rowan thing was probably like our first thing that we did together, like officially, right?
Gotcha. So there's another project I wanted to touch base on, which you did called Mad Black Men. And it was a remix of Mad Men. So just take us through like how this project came about and what was the like the idea or the problem you were wanting to solve.
Okay. So Mad Men was big when I was in school. So when I was in school, I was just getting out of school when it first like came out on the scene. And being a designer, being in the ad industry, like it was huge, like in that industry, right? As far as like people talking about it, it being representation of what like marketing might look like and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't, it was a good show. I wasn't big on it because of the lack of representation that was in it, but I was like, cool, y'all can have that. It's all right. Then people started to challenge the show creator, Matthew Weiner, I think his name it is, about like a certain lack of diversity, right? And then he was just like, that's just how it was. It was like that. Like, and there was a part of me that was like, that's not true. Like, so there historically there hasn't been a large level of diversity in the advertising space. However, like one of the big plot points in Mad Men was the main character winning like a Clio award, right? And the guy who designed the Clio was Black. So it was just like, if you wanted to have Black people in this space, you could, but you chose not to. And it's a choice, but let's just be honest about the choice. And so at that time, I was developing a relationship with Daily Motion as like a content creator. And this is before like monetization. So this is before YouTube monetization, and like Daily Motion didn't have like a direct monetization platform, but they did have like some grants and stuff like that for content creation. And then so I pitched them a couple ideas. The first idea I pitched them was like this interactive music album, or there's like a choose your own story kind of thing, which was ahead of its time. Then for the platform couldn't support it, and then I just like off the cuff like, oh yeah, or I could do this other idea, right, or just make fun of Mad Men or whatever. And like I was talking to them in New York, because I went to go visit in New York and I visit the studios, and they're like, oh yeah, you should submit for this grant. And then they gave me the grant. And I was like, oh, hey, wow. And then it was like go time to actually make this happen, because what I had in my head was maybe a sketch that was like 2 or 3 minutes, but I pitched it
Mhm.
as a web series, and they bought the
Mm.
web series. So I was like, "Oh,
Oh, wow.
now I gotta write a bunch of stuff." First
Yeah.
thing I'm ever making is a period piece, which is crazy. It was so
Yeah.
but I'm happy with what we were able to do at that time. What my goal with that project was to kind of put the medicine in the candy in a kind of way, like have some comedy, yeah, poke some fun at what's in pop culture right now, but also put a little bit of truth in there too, as far as like let's
Yeah.
talk about some of the designers that were big names at the time. And well,
Mhm.
Saray was actually one of the she donated to my like GoFundMe campaign to make the
Oh, dope.
so that was like that was a blessing, and that was another moment in my career that said, "Keep doing this, keep pushing.
Right.
You got something, right?"
Yeah, yeah. So let's touch on your new venture, your new baby, Cynosure. Can you explain to us how that came to fruition for you?
Okay, yeah. So Cynosure Creative Agency, co-founded with Ricardo Mendoza, who isn't here because he does not live with me. We're partners, not like that. We started this about 7 years ago to well, is it 8 years? 2017. This was like a year after I had moved out to the West Coast. We'd known each other. We met each other from working at a different space. We left
Mhm.
individually for different reasons.
Yeah.
But he just kind of hit me up. I had took a job at Universal Studios after I left there,
Mhm.
but he had hit me up and was just like, "Yo, I like working with you. You want to keep working together?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's try to figure it out." And we were blessed with an opportunity to pitch on a Netflix show for helping to like support the Netflix show and create content, digital marketing,
Yeah.
digital media for the show. And it was Spike Lee's She's Gotta Have It. I actually have like the Spike Lee painting over here. I don't know if I can get over there, but there's like a Spike Lee.
Oh, that's nice.
But let me know if I'm in frame proper. So we got the opportunity to pitch on that. And basically we just said like, yo, if we get this client, we'll start this business. Right.
Mhm.
So late nights after work, going over to his house, posted up in his dining room, working on a pitch deck, working on stuff. And then we get the opportunity, right? They say, yeah, we want to pick you. We want to hire you to promote this show. And
Mhm.
that's the beginning of what we're doing now. And we've been rocking ever since. So we've grown, we've shrunk, we've grown, we've shrunk. But the biggest thing is that we're still going, we're still kicking, and we're still making stuff that like we're proud of. And a lot of
That's dope.
time we position ourselves as a true like general audience agency in the sense that most we're in a minority majority. We're approaching a minority majority when it comes to the U.S. overall in general. And
Yeah.
the general market is comprised of many different cultures and subcultures. And we'll
Mhm.
try to build a team that has authentic insight into a bunch of those different pockets of
Yeah.
Americana, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we do. We try to speak for our culture, right?
So I'm curious, what's your approach when starting to do these visual stories from scratch? Like you shared with us how you did it with Mad Black Men, but you've also worked with like big names like you mentioned before, like working with Gambino, uh Kid Cudi. Like, how do you approach when you start to tell these visual stories? Like, what's the first thing you need to get off the ground so that you know, okay, this is the direction I'm headed. This is how we want to illuminate the story that we feel can be very powerful for this brand or this artist.
Yeah. So the first step usually comes with like submerging myself in the source media. Cause a lot of what we're doing is trying to extrapolate from existing art, right? So it's like dive in it, live in it, try to understand it, try to understand what the goal of it is and what it's speaking to, and then find the things that are resonating with me, particularly because I am not super unique in myself, right? So if I like something, there's probably a good amount of other people out in the world somewhere who also like it. So it's just like, all right, so I'm responding to these things. Hey, you're responding to those things, and you're also responding to some of what I'm doing and what they're responding to. So these might be the themes that we want to pull out, right? And then so from after spending some time with whatever the media is, whatever the content is, if it's a script, if it's a screener of the movie or whatever, building out some of those themes. And then on top of those themes, identifying different motifs in the work, and then saying, okay, now that we have these building blocks, let's add to this house, right? Because that director, Spike, has already built something here, right? Right. All I'm trying to do is help the curb appeal. Like I'm trying to help the landscaping around this to make it more attractive to the passerby, right? And so it's just kind of like assuming that role and saying like, all right, these are the things that we want to take and we want to amplify to intrigue people to want to hop into this story or hop into this concept or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, and help find that hook to get people to buy.
So during that process, do you ever run into the conflict of both ideas might work, but you have to pick one?
Sometimes, a lot of the times the client will tell you, so the client will say, I want this one instead of that one. A lot of times we'll just serve both ideas, right? So we'll serve both ideas and let them choose. And oftentimes when we let them do that, a lot of times they'll come back and say, let's mix the two. And so we'll do that too. And I think an important part when it comes to doing like commercial art is not getting too like married to any one concept or idea. It's perfectly fine to have like strong feelings about what is going to work and what might not work. It's you got to be able to let ideas die if people say that like they don't want them, right? If you start trying to push it and force it, then you can strain the relationship with that client. And it's a little bit different like when you're making your own art, because like, you're making your own art, it's as much as it's for someone else, it's for you too. And it's primarily like self-expression. When you're making commercial art, like there is self-expression involved, but it's not for you. It's for this client and to serve this purpose. So if it's not serving this purpose and it's not serving the client, you got to be able to let it go.
Got it. So how do you handle that like creatively? Because it's like, as designers, we pour everything we have into those ideas and thoughts, and we spend hours and days and times laboring over it. So how do you handle that creatively or even emotionally when like a client is just like, no?
For me, like at this point, I'm a little bit callous because I've been in it for like 20 years. But my rule of thumb is typically like I'll give one pushback. And if the one pushback isn't enough, have an open conversation, I'll just let it go. So all right, I present this. Okay, I don't know about that. I don't know this. All right, well, if I wasn't able to articulate why I think this works now, before, I'll dive a little bit deeper. This is why I want to do this, and you feel like this based off, just try to be like logical about it. And then they're like, I just don't know. Then it's like, all right, cool. It's done. It's dead. Like we're not coming back to it. Right. Because in commercial art, it's like my primary goal is really to make the client happy. Right. And my secondary goal is to achieve whatever they said they wanted.
Got it.
That kind of makes sense. But when I say that, because it's just like I'm in the service industry, essentially.
Right.
So, like, if I'm making burgers, like, I want my customer to like the burger that they have, right? And I can tell them why, like, yo, don't put putting ketchup on this burger is not what you shouldn't do that. Like, you're disrespecting
Right.
that are in the meats. But if they say, yeah, but I don't eat burgers without ketchup, you're like, all right, man. Like, well, here's your ketchup. Like, come back next Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like sometimes you gotta learn how to navigate. It depends on what client you're working with too, because some clients speak in between the lines, especially when it comes to culture, right? Because they have particular sensitivities and so they try to it's a little bit of double speak. I'm fine with it because I get it, right? So sometimes we gotta
Yeah.
look into, all right, so what are they saying in the words that they haven't said, right? And how do we hit those markers?
Yeah.
And some clients think they want one thing to achieve their goal, but there's a completely different path that's far more efficient to achieving their goal. And now it's on us to like inform them, like, hey, I understand you want to go this way. If you go that way, you might get there fast, right?
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, and when we get into those positions, that comes back to like the presenting two options, right? All right,
Got you.
I didn't really want to do the thing you asked for. I want to do, here's the thing I put as much effort into it as I would anything else. Here's the thing I
Right.
should do, right? And you let them pick. And either that's oh, you know what? That other place you went was like, I really like that. I wasn't thinking about that, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
it's really like hearing that or seeing that because they're coming in many spaces, they're coming to you for your expertise because they don't know what to do, right? And those
Yep.
when they're like, I don't really know what to do. I'm sure try to get to this result. Can you show us how you think we should get there?
Got it.
There's some beauty to that, but there's also a lot of beauty in a client. This is like, this is what we're doing. I'd like your help in executing this, right? Like,
Yeah.
not that they're rigid and immovable, but more so, I understand what I want. It's been working, and I like working with you.
Yeah.
So let's work,
Got it.
right?
Got it. Yeah. So how do you keep it authentic when you're telling these stories? Because it's just like, is it the same way you just showed us? Like you present two options, you give them their idea and then your idea? Or is it more of, how do I say this? Is it more of just reminding these companies or big brands like, hey, this is what you guys stand on, and this is what I want to put into your work? And you do something like that? Or is it more of like you still present the two options?
So when it comes to authenticity, I think authenticity just seeps through the creative that we make because I try to speak from authentic places. So we're really I think some of the questionnaire is like what's happening if they ask you to do something that feels inauthentic, right?
Yes, yes.
We've built a certain cachet in our segment of the industry where when people are asking us like to make stuff, they're trusting that we have good ideas, right?
Yeah.
So we don't really get asked to do too much that's like out of line with what we think. If we see it, we'll kind of like cordially call it out. Like, we might want to think twice about doing this. Hey, you want to
Got it.
this on this day? Let's be sensitive to what's going on over here. And most of the time, it's just like, okay, yeah, we didn't think about that like that, or we didn't see that.
Right.
We didn't see that correlation. Thank you for bringing that up. I haven't really run into a space where it felt like there was an issue or a problem. There was one, not with this business, with another business that where I was working at. A project came in, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to work on it, so I was just like, I'm not going to take it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like
I'll just no, not for me.
a lot of people fell in love with classic characters on that show. But for me, because we had just like worked on Atlanta, and I felt like Atlanta represented so much progress for Black creativity, especially in like television. When that show came across my desk, I was just like, yeah, well, I don't feel like promoting this. Shortly thereafter, I was not working at that establishment anymore, but it wasn't because of that show or anything like that. But I say that to say, like, personally, like, it's okay to have a particular moral compass inside of you.
Yeah.
Easier when you feel like you aren't dependent on someone else's check,
Right.
which was something a certain confidence I have been blessed with because I hit several lows in my life and it bounced back, right? So it's that whole, it was forget the bar from Jay-Z, but essentially it's like, put me anywhere, I'll be back to where I'm at in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Send me back, I'm gonna get back to where I am.
Yeah.
So it's like when you have that certain level of confidence, or when you have experienced a particular like rock bottom and said, oh no, I lived through that. Like I made it through the rock bottom. I made it through.
Yep.
I came out to California, I was living in my car. So it's like, I know what that looks like. It's different now to have a family, and I'm not trying to have them live in a car.
Yeah.
At that time, it was just like, I'm good, bro. Like y'all gonna keep working, I'm gonna keep working. It's gonna work out. So, but a lot of that gets established with being able to learn how to, for lack of a better term, hunt and get your own food.
Yeah. So I want to touch on a little bit of like visibility and advocacy. You spoke about this a couple of times about the lack of visibility for Black designers. Why do you think the design world is so slow to that change?
I think so. It's hard to be something you can't see, first of all. Second of all, in general, there isn't a great amount of representation about advertising, marketing, and design in pop culture, right? So that's why Mad Men was so big when it was big, is because there isn't that much of it going on, right? So we have Boomerang, right? And shout out to the Marcus Graham project that is like inspired by Marcus Graham and Boomerang.
Yeah.
But just in general, there isn't that much exposure about this being a career path. Like there's so many stories where, or movies or TV shows with doctors, lawyers, you like
Yeah.
psychiatrists or whatever. So with that representation being kind of low to begin with, what happens is the majority of people who end up getting into the industry are people who know other people in the industry, and it leads to that same like old boys network type of situation. These days is a little bit different because of the advent of social media and like democratization of content creation. So I think there's two issues at play. The bigger issue is, I like the phrase, you can't be what you can't see, right? And just in general, there isn't a lot of like pop culture representation of design and advertising as a job, or there hasn't been historically. That's one of the reasons why Mad Black Men or Mad Men was so popular. Is it was one of those big moments in advertising, marketing, design. We did have, shout out to Eddie Murphy and the Marcus Graham project. We did have Boomerang, right? But just in general, when it comes to showing people that this is a career path and a career field, a whole lot of pop culture representation. It's changing a little bit now because more people are getting into content creation overall. A little more people are, TikTok shop, advertising and stuff like that. So there's more people like understanding that, and also the democratization of like media creation in general. So been making their own movies, people making their own music videos and albums and stuff. There's a little bit more people who are getting into it, as far as like when I started running around at concerts with my DSLR, like I was one of the first, I was one of the few, right? And now it's very normal for every, aspiring artist or musician, there's an aspiring director that's, following them around, making their video. videos and stuff like. So there's a little bit of a change of the guard there, but
Uh-huh.
in general, it's just about exposing people to this as an opportunity, as a job, and realize that there is someone behind every advertisement you see, behind every home cover that is getting made or whatever, every piece of design, somebody's responsible for bringing that to fruition. Now,
Yeah.
with that lack of visibility of the job in general, what happens is a lot of people who get into the career, like I went to school with a lot of
Yeah.
people whose parents were designers, right? Or
Yeah.
aunts and uncles were designers or something like that. Like that's how they came to know about what was going, that you could do this. And what happens is it kind of develops into like this old boys network, right? And if it starts off looking one way, it kind of stays looking that way. Which
Yeah.
one reason why I feel like there hasn't been a lot of growth in diversity in the industry. But one way we try to combat that is just by being visible and talking about it.
For young Black and brown creatives who want to get in but don't know where to start, what would you say to them?
I'd say just start making stuff. YouTube University is one of the greatest gifts to us since libraries in general, right?
Oh, sure.
There's all kinds of information out there. There's all kinds of free tutorials out there on how to make different things, whatever you're interested in making. Research it, study people who have made it before, and try making it yourself. Accept the suck, like accept the fact that you're not
Absolutely.
there. There's this time in your career where your taste level is higher than your talent level, right?
Yeah.
Means we like things that are better than what you can produce, right? Or they're more effective
Yep.
you feel able to produce. And you just gotta have to stick through it until your talent level catches up with your taste level, right?
Yep.
So embrace that awkward part. Don't run, right? And that's how you continue to push yourself to grow so that when you have opportunities come your way, you have the skill and the preparedness to take advantage of those opportunities, right? Because it's like luck is just when the opportunity and preparation meet, right? So that's what I'd say to start with, because you don't need anybody but yourself for that, right? Almost. And if you don't have access to internet, I don't know how you're watching this or listening to this, but if you don't have access to the internet, you can go to the library.
Yep.
And after starting that, start looking around and trying to find mentors. Try to find people who
Yeah.
have done or are doing what you want to do and
Yes.
engage them, right? Because more often than not, you'll find that people are actually very willing to help, because a lot of people have stories similar to mine where it's like a gatekeeper somewhere said, come on in, right? Or somebody somewhere gave them a helping hand in one way or another, and
Yeah.
they're they have an internal obligation to kind of pay it forward. If you can't pay it back, pay it forward, right? And sometimes maybe it's just a single lunch, right? It might be one phone call. Sometimes it's a years long relationship that gets built.
Yeah.
But learn from
Very
people who
true.
are doing it and be open minded. Like, do more than just try to find someone who's going to say, yeah, you're doing the right thing. Be open when they say there might be a different way to do that. And then judge for yourself about what you want to do, but be open.
Mm, definitely. So I want to implement this fun, quick round where it's just I ask you a question and you give me the best answer that you can come up with. Okay.
Okay.
So, first creative tool you ever loved.
Yeah, Photoshop. I got a long history with Photoshop. Just dragging about characters in Photoshop.
Dream artist or brand you haven't worked with yet.
Nike.
Oh, okay. Most overrated design trend.
Gradients.
Oh, curious. Why do you say that?
I don't know, because like sometimes I use them a lot, but I think there are a lot of places where I see them used where they're unnecessary, and specifically in logos, just because like nowadays media is different, right? So much more media is digital, less print. And one of the reasons why we used to have just like black and white logos or single color logos was based off of print and print techniques. And now businesses aren't so reliant on those paper materials that they're like, oh, okay, well, we can explore having like several different colors or whatever. So my business partner, Rick, like I'm gonna speak for him. He does not like the Rams logo at all. And it's like, cause the logo has to change every time you put it on like a different color because it has color and gradient to it. And it's just,
Yeah.
we don't need to do this. We don't have to change because it's still an icon, even if it's small. But meh, like it's
Gradient.
it's not that people should stop using gradients or anything like that. It's I don't need them in like logos. And there's a lot of places where like I don't need them. They're very pretty in other places. I love them. But they're not needed.
Yeah. That's funny because I was going to ask you another question about what logo could you redo, and I think you just answered that. I think you just answered that one because I think every designer has a logo they don't love. I have one, and as much as I hate it, I love the team, but I just hate the new redesign for it. It reminds me too much of Disneyland. It's the new Dodgers logo, the D that they came up with. I when I saw it, I was like, it reminds me of Disneyland. That does not embody LA a single bit. So I totally probably feel your buddy Rick when he sees that Rams logo, it just like the heat in his ears probably just starts going up because he's just like, why did you do that? You could have done something way different. Okay. Milwaukee, LA, or another place that brings you creative energy.
So is the question either Milwaukee or LA?
Is it
or
Yeah. Is it either Milwaukee or LA?
Milwaukee's always home. Milwaukee is always bittersweet to be, but like I love my people there. So I mean, I'm living out here in LA. It's super nice out here in LA. I probably was my most creative in Milwaukee though. I've had the most opportunity in LA, but I think a lot of creativity comes from restraint because I can't do this the typical way. I got to find a different way to do it. And that's what births creativity. So if the question is, where do I have the most creative energy? It's Milwaukee.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's where I would like to be creatively, it's LA because it's more rewarding here. So if there's a drink caps, I'll take a drink, but it's Milwaukee.
Okay. What song instantly gets you in your creative zone?
He Says by Mos Def. Yeah, that's like a zone away track or RJD2 Ghostwriter, probably. Like they're like some of the first songs on my all right, let's get stuff done playlist. So yeah.
Okay.
When I think about being creative, I think about those.
Dope. Okay. So let's talk about what's next for you. Has there been any recent projects that made you feel proud? Not because of the clout, but because of the like walking through the whole process?
Okay. So I think there's two different questions there. I'll answer the second one first and then go back to the first one. So a project that we worked on fairly recently that I was very proud of and proud of my team as well was we worked on them for Amazon Prime, which is like a thriller horror genre television show based upon like a Black family living in Compton. So we worked on season 2, which is related to season 1 in its own way. I won't spoil it for people who are still going to get into it. But I really liked being able to play in that space, the Black horror space, right? A genre that has been around for a long time, but has experienced a lot of growth recently. And again, so that leans into that like underrepresented, but let's shine a light on it, right? Bring some more people into the fold. And one of the things, so we actually won a Clio for a piece that we did for that show, which was stop motion animation. So what I liked about that was kind of getting back to those animation roots and like doing different illustrations, working with my team members about like doing so yarn was important to the show, right? For different reasons. So we had this concept of like, all right, well, how can we pull on that motif, that yarn motif, and then create something that teases the show out, teases important elements and moments from the show without like giving away any plot, but still feels interesting. So what we ended up doing was making a series of like contour line drawings out of yarn and intercutting that like the transition from the one drawing to the next. Each drawing had its own little animation, and then intercutting that with footage and audio from the show to like build hype in the show iconography. There's like, police badge, a murder weapon, a this, a that.
Yeah.
To kind of give you some hints of what the show's about to be about. And it felt really good to get back to those animation roots. It felt really good to solve a problem because we didn't have like a stop motion studio. So we just did it in Blender instead. And like, just going through the process of figuring out how we're going to do it. Cause it's one of those things where you pitch an idea, you don't know how you're going to do it. And then they say, yeah, let's do that. And now you got to figure it out. And then it worked.
So that's dope. So what's on your creative bucket list right now? Is it a film, a global campaign, something nobody's ever seen before? Just out of curiosity, because it's like you work with so many entities. Is there like something on your bucket list where you're just waiting for the right brand to approach and them say, hey, you have full creative control. What is it that you want to do? We'll back you 100%.
Okay. So I think what we really want to try to do is get into the consumer product goods space. And like, I would love to get in with preferably maybe like a black owned business that like does it's like hair care or food or something like that, that is really uplifting to the community and the culture with the product as well as how they speak to the community too. So we were blessed to do some work with like Savage Fenty before, but it's just like that's kind of what I want to get into next and make something that people can relate to in another way. Because one of the things that draws me to the work that we do in entertainment is I grew up such a fan of pop culture. I love like personally feeling like I've helped influence or contributed to pop culture. But it's just like some of that is like, how do we help people make their lives better? Right. So entertainment is one form of like escape. The consumer product goods are also another form of like day-to-day life. Right. So how important was Maurice pomade to people trying to have like waves in the day? So like, man, it would feel very rewarding to be a part or part of that process, no pun intended, when it comes to the culture in general. So that's a space that I would like to get into, right? So that's why I say stuff like Nike, right? Because that brand is meaningful to people beyond the product, right? And I would love to help. I would love to help elevate a product and their brand to have a similar amount of meaning to, the culture that I represent. Right?
Got it. So Max, we have been rolling, man. Just a few more questions before we end this podcast. Thank you so much for being on here, man. This has just been very like rewarding hearing like how you've made it, brother. You are like really blessed. You have favor on you, man. So what's one piece of advice you wish you had from day one?
Buy a bunch of Bitcoin, don't sell it. Yeah, I don't really know because I don't have too many regrets when it comes to like professional life. I don't have too many regrets about where my professional life has gone or where my professional career has gone. It might be like get into content creation and stay in it, right? Because I was in it, like I said, you were talking about before, like I was in it before monetization was like popular. There at that time, I was doing that while I was working at Kohl's. And that's part of like where that conversation, the like, you got to do this or that. And I kind of regret, so I'm going against what I just said. I kind of regret not keeping my foot on the gas in that aspect. And I forgive myself because I was like 23 and I needed to pay my rent, right? So I kind of forgive myself for not getting into that. The issue is like I just didn't get back into it. So that might be what I talk about, because where we are today, like there's cachet and power in having an audience. And one of the ways to build that audience is by feeding them and feeding them content. So like I like Chris Doe talks about this a lot as far as like pivoting when he made the future of his company, like seeing where advertising was and seeing what was on the horizon and making a pivot towards creating content. Because one of the other things is like we're all chasing quality of life in one way or another, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to obtain a high quality of life while you are trading time for money, right? Because time is the luxury, right? So how do you get into an industry, or how do you create income sources that don't require your time to make every dollar that you get from it, right? And one of those things is content creation. You can make something today that can pay you for the next 10, 15 years, 20 years if it's good and it stays relevant. So that might be the advice.
Well, Xavier, where can people find you, see your work, or check out what you guys have coming up next?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Xavier Ruffin. You can go to Cynosure CA.com, which is our company's website. We're also on Instagram at Cynosure CA. If they want to see some of our work, just send a DM. If you want to connect with me, feel free to DM me personally. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you guys, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. My name is Justin Robinson. I had the creator, the disruptor, the all-around visual visionary, Xavier Ruffin, and this is the Art School Graduate Podcast. We'll catch y'all later. Peace.